Evolutionary.org Hardcore 2.0 is coming your way, episode 216, How to Run a 6 to 8 Week Shorter Cycle by Euro Pharma. So this is going to be a really good one. Mobster is joining me, and also Pigsy is joining me from the forum. Very special Evo family member. Pigsy, y'all know him on the forum, especially the guys in Australia. And he's joining us at a very early time in Australia, so we really appreciate him coming in. How you doing, Pigsy?
Yeah, doing really well, thanks, and happy to do the next podcast with these guys.
So this is going to be a really good one. We're going to go over several different things. We're going to talk about what we mean by short cycle. We're going to talk about benefits of running shorter cycles. Pigsy is going to talk about some of the shorter cycle experiences he's had and why he chose them. We're also going to talk about some Euro Pharma short cycle ideas for all of you out there. First, let me remind everyone we are on Apple, we are on Spotify, we're on different platforms. If you want to help the podcast grow, smash the like button, leave comments, subscribe. Very, very important that the algorithms pick up our podcast and then we can grow the podcast organically. We don't want to buy followers. We don't want to do any other crap that these other podcasters are doing. It's a complete joke. We want to grow it the right way and organically. And that's how you really put it together a great podcast. So let's start this off. Pigsy, talk about short cycles. What does a short cycle exactly mean to you?
I've got my bloody thing muted. Um, yeah, yeah.
So go ahead, Pigsy. Tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, well, to me, a short cycle is, to 6 to 8 weeks, with a set goal in mind, either a quick bulk or a quick cut, or a composition style. That's what it means to me.
And when you mean by a quick bulk and quick cut, what exactly do you mean by that? What do you mean by bulk? Is it by weight, or is it by, and it would cutting be by body fat, or would it be weight? What do you mean
Yeah,
exactly?
yeah. Be in body fat, the cut. Try and get yourself down a few percent in body fat. Try and get those abs to pop out a bit. Also, some separation in the muscle, and the separation, vascularity would come out. And in the bulk, you would, increase your food intake. Try and build up a bit of strength as well in that 6 to 8 weeks. And in that 6 to 8 weeks, try and maybe put on what's that, 5 kilos, 10 pounds in body weight in that time. So you're not so watery, or for myself anyway, how I would do it. Not so watery, and not to gain too much body fat in that time.
So what would be, for guys listening out there, maybe gals as well, what would be a motivation for doing something in such a short amount of time? Do you think it's ahead of a vacation? Is it ahead of just hitting a goal, specific goal? What would be a prime reason for doing that in the first place?
Yeah, you like either you're going on a beach or a holiday, photo shoot, promotion work, even future weddings, or birthday parties, or even class reunions. So that in that time you'd want to look your best, in that time frame,
So let's
so you
start
can
with
show off to all your
so
friends and
so
mates.
so specifically in your experience, and we're going to talk about some of your short experiences later, but what have been some of the things that you have done when it comes to cutting? Has it been ahead of a class reunion or a wedding or something like that? And how has that turned out for you?
Yeah, one of them was like on a vacation, to like a tropical island. So we had 8 weeks to prepare for that. So then it was, lower the calories, and kick in the cardio, and also add in the appropriate PEDs for that
Okay.
occasion.
So let's
Mm.
start. Let's start with that. Talk about some of the tips and tricks when it comes to cutting. First of all, when it comes to your calories and when it comes to your cardio, what are some things that you need to be
Let me ask
doing. Yeah, go
let me
ahead.
ask Pigsy let me ask Pigsy one question, and I actually made a note here in terms of why I think less time wouldn't be as effective as 6 to 8 weeks. And specifically, of course, today's show is about the 6 to 8 weeks suggestion. So I wrote down, why not 4 weeks? And my thinking, and I want to see if Pigsy agrees with this, especially if you were bulking or trying to add some kind of lean muscle tissue, we know from personal experience and from the forums, Pigsy, that people can add 3, 4, 5 pounds of tissue in as little as 6 to 8 weeks. But in my thinking, when I wrote down why not 4 weeks, I was thinking even what they used to call short, high intensity cycles, so 4 weeks at a much higher dose than normal, I would argue that there's too short a time for your body to have what we would call sticking. The muscle won't stick. There's not enough time for your body to get used to being 3 or 4 pounds heavier. The same thing in regards to being, trying to strip a few pounds of fat. You may well strip a few pounds of water and or fat very quickly in 3, 4 weeks, but would it stay off? So I'm thinking the 6 to 8 week thing almost is needed just to have that sticking at it or sticking with itness in terms of tissue mass added or tissue mass lost. What do you think about that idea before we get into other bits and pieces?
Yeah, I agree with that. In that time frame, the 4 weeks, of course, the first week or so is, especially in the weight loss, would be mainly just water, and then you just slowly get into body fat. And I think, yeah, realistically, it's just not long enough.
How many times have we seen people run a cut, and as you said, we've seen people drop 10, 12 pounds in the first 2 weeks, and we know that 90% of that is water. So that really only gives you 2 fucking weeks to lose another 1 or 2 pounds of actual fat. Who the fuck's going to notice 1 or 2 pounds of fat? It's just not going to happen. Whereas if you can lose 1 or 2 pounds a week for 8 weeks, you're absolutely going to see the difference on someone's physique if they've lost 12 or even 16 pounds of fat and water. That would be a transformation right there.
Yeah, it would be amazing if it was possible in the 4 weeks. But as you said, you're only just starting to get going at the 4 week mark. That's how I feel anyway. Everything was just you start moving in. The PEDs that you're taking would be just kicking in as well, especially the oils. The oils would be, within days, but your oils that you'd be taking would only be just starting to kick in.
There's an argument to be made for the speed of your metabolism barely got changed and your body's not accommodated. Something that we talked about back in the day, Steve, was called homeostasis. And I believe there was some science behind the idea of needing at least 60 to 90 days for something to stick permanently, whether that's fat loss or gain. We're getting up around that with 6 to 8 weeks. We're getting close to that. As an example for myself, Steve, have I run 4 week cycles? Yes, but only at the end of a 12 or 16 week training cycle. So I've literally put 4 PEDs in at the last 4 weeks to peak my strength by 5% or 10% at the end. But I've trained for 12 or 16 weeks to get to that point of adding the PEDs, and I'm not looking to keep that level of strength at the end. So yeah, it has to be as a minimum when we're talking about the whys and wherefores. It has to be 6 to 8 weeks. As we get past that into 10, 12, 16, or even 20-week cycles that people have talked about, that's a completely different ball game, and we would run a cycle differently or whatever. The closest we get to it, and I agree with Pigsy 100% here, and I've seen it a bunch of times on the forum, I always used to say to the guys, did you win the holiday in the competition? Because how the fuck did you not know it was going to happen in 4 weeks or 6 weeks' time? And the other one would be a photo shoot, like you said, Pigsy. You're already in good condition, but you just want to peak and look amazing for the day of the photo shoot. That absolutely makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if you're in a decent nick at the 6 to 8 week mark, then of course that time frame you can really do some big improvements. But if you're coming from, a higher body fat percentage in that 6 to 8 weeks, you may drop 2%, and in that 2%, so if you're, closer to the 20 to 18, and you push down to 16, is that a big noticeable change, maybe on the scale, but in looking at you, not very much.
So there's benefits to longer cycles. There's benefits to, middle, moderate cycles. There's benefits to high dosing steroids, low dosing steroids, all kinds of benefits. But Pigsy, what are your thoughts on the benefits of running a shorter cycle? Because I think the number one benefit, especially for the guys like they're in their 20s, is that you run a short cycle, 6 to 8 weeks, and then you're not shutting yourself down for a long period of time. You're using shorter esters generally. You're in, you're out quicker. You're not damaging your reproductive system, your HPTA, as much as you would if you were to run a 16 or 20-week cycle where you're on half the year. If you count the esters, you're on more than half the year in a lot of cases. So it takes a long time to recover. So to me, I think that's the number one benefit. Do you agree with that? And what are some other benefits of shorter cycles that guys out there should be taking a look at, and gals?
Yeah, well, I think the same with the sex hormones and stuff. You can recover a lot quicker on the short ones. So, so if you use 6 to 8 weeks, hit it hard and fast, and then out, have your break for 10 to 12 weeks, and then go again. And your recovery is good. And normally your health markers, it doesn't really take a beating as much either. Your liver, kidneys, everything else have less of a hard time than running a heavy cycle for 16 plus weeks. So in that case, yes, it's a lot better for recovery and maybe for health as well.
Do you think too with competing, it can have benefits ahead of a competition because it gives you more flexibility where you can work with if you're working with your coach and you can kind of change things up. If you're doing like a 20-week cycle going into a competition, it's just like it's hard to change things up if you're using long esters because the esters will linger in your system. So it's like if your coach is like, well, you got to stop testosterone, but if you've been on testosterone 20 weeks, losing cypionate, it's going to be in your system for weeks after you stop it. So going into your show, it's going to be in your system. Do you see a benefit with that? With the competitors like to use shorter cycles, kind of going into a competition for that reason?
Yeah, the shorter cycles for the coming into comp, definitely, especially with those longer compounds. Like if you were using, wouldn't be using too much Deca, but say EQ, you'd want to drop that, at least 4 weeks out. Test, if you're only using prop, you could drop it, say, a week out, and then to help you lose a bit of water and in your conditioning would look a lot better. And that's where you would add in your orals to finish you off in that last 1 to 2 weeks, coming up to competition and getting off as many oils as possible. For the injections, also, just in case you have a bad shot, you end up with a lump, it's not going to look good on stage, is it? Doesn't matter where it is to hide. It's either you're going to have a big lump on your glute, or your delt, or lat, or wherever it is. So having that break off your shots a week or so out is also beneficial in that case. And then your orals will fill you that gap for that week coming into the show.
So, something that occurs to me, Steve and Pigsy, I wrote down here, learning how the body responds if I were working with a coach. Coaches, and even with the professional bodybuilders, we've seen complaints. We've seen Nick Walker dropping. What is he on now? He's like supposed to be prepping himself now. And I think he's on like 3rd coach in the last 5 years or something ridiculous. And one of the problems that these guys were having, unless they're keeping really good notes on what worked and what didn't work with the previous coach, is that a new coach comes in and is literally almost arguably, especially with Nick, got to find out what works, what didn't work, what diet worked, what training worked. So I wrote down, in 6 to 8 weeks, you could learn how a body responds to a fairly straightforward, and we're going to talk about stacks and cycles, of course, working with a new coach. They will get to see what happens to your body. That was one thought. The other one I wrote down was, it's easier, and I think I'm probably talking about the newer PEDs, the beginner, someone that's only done 1 or 2 cycles. It would be almost easier for someone to finally get their shit together seriously for 6 to 8 weeks, rather than you go, right, we're going to do a 16-week or a 20-week cycle, and they'll be thinking, oh my God, that's like after a fucking year, this fucker's going to be on me like a bitch with his whip, giving me a hard time for 16 fucking, I can't get my fucking head around it. You go, let's do a 6 to 8 week prep. Let's get you ready in 6 to 8 weeks, just to get you cut, get you muscular, get you whatever. And it's a lot easier and arguably cheaper for someone to get the head around who's never done this shit before, being serious about their food and serious about their training, and finally doing a cycle. You only say 6 to 8 weeks, because that doesn't, it's not so daunting. It's not so, oh, fuck me, Mobster wants me to run a 26-week cycle. That's 6 months of my life. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the head fuck is there. But the other thing I wrote down here, just as a thought, guys, and I mentioned it kind of earlier on, when we talk about 6 to 8 week cycles, I said for myself, I've done less, but only after I've done 12 or 16 weeks of the preparation for me to get as strong as I possibly can to peak my strength. And what sometimes people will do, and this is more of a sort of random thought associated with all of this stuff, is they're only pulling this shit together for that 6 to 8 weeks or the length of whatever cycle they're doing. And I say, even if you're, as we talked about, looking to get cut, or even if you're looking to add a bit of muscle or get stronger, as per my own example, it doesn't have to be in that 6 to 8 weeks. It can be previous 6 weeks of starting to get stronger or more muscular or leaner, and then introducing the PEDs to peak your cut, to peak your mass, to peak your strength. Don't think when we have this conversation, guys, when you're listening to the show on your headphones, while you're doing your cardio, that you're only doing this thing for 6 to 8 weeks. That's the cycle. It's not necessarily the whole approach. The whole approach, previous 6 weeks could have been getting leaner and tidying your diet up or whatever. And then the last 6 to 8 weeks is when you get your shit really serious, tidy the fuck up. Now it's time to knuckle down, and you're introducing the PEDs. So, yeah, we're talking about the cycle aspect, but there are other attributes that you guys need to be aware of when you're listening to the show. Take it from me. Me, Pigsy, and Steve aren't only training hard when we're on cycle, we're training hard all the fucking time. We just have different phases of the years where we're training for different things. And that is not always when we're on cycle. Sometimes when we're off cycle or getting ready to go on cycle. Back to you, Pigsy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you wouldn't come from stale cold to run a 6 week to 8 week cycle. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, to tell you the truth. But most of us on Evo, or nearly all of us on Evo, are always, training. Our diets are on point, yes, and everything.
Yes.
Most of us are on a TRT dose.
Yes.
And most of us are in pretty good nick and condition. So we can plan that 6 to 8 weeks, knowing that we set our goal either for a recomp or a bulk or a cut. So whatever our goal is,
some of our Australian members are doing what we call health phases. So they'll lower their doses right down, or they'll go into TRT, and they'll do that for 6 to 8 weeks to see that their blood numbers are back where they need to be in range. And then they're introduced a 6 to 8 week or longer cycle. So they're absolutely taking time off with their foot off the gas, so to speak, PED wise, and training. Look, even training is super stressful on the fucking body when you're at peak effort. So
that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. The guys that are fucking doing the crazy work like you sometimes do, as well as struggling to get the food in, the fly in, fly out guys are struggling all the time with diets and the crazy fucking shift works and whatever else. And we've had a bunch of guys, including myself, that have had the Australians again with chest infections and viral infection just recently. So the idea that you can't be going hard all the fucking time. There are reasons why we do things the way that we do them. It's easy to discuss these points in isolation, which is kind of what we're doing. But have a sort of, this is again for the benefit of the listener, we would be doing other things the majority of the time. Just sometimes these holidays come up. Sometimes it's like a birthday treat. Sometimes it's a modelling gig or an exhibition. I've done that in the past. And it's literally, can you be okay in 8 weeks' time? Yes, I can. And I'll plan for my fucking 8 weeks. I'll get ready in fucking 8 weeks. Absolutely. Just show me the money. These people want me to turn up. we've seen this even in top professionals, guys, just to finish, where if I'm a promoter and I'm going to pay you $5,000, Pigsy, I want to see a rip the fuck Pigsy on my stage gets posing on a Saturday fucking night. I don't want to see an off-season Pigsy's been smashing a birthday cake, Pigsy. So I'm going to try to give you 6 to 8 weeks notice. So you go out and fly like a motherfucker to get into shape, to look good for the $5,000 that I'm going to drop on the table for you. So yeah, it does happen, guys, but we have seen professional bodybuilders, and we do wonder what the fuck they're doing for their $10,000, their $5,000, because we've seen it in the past. You can't do that anymore. Also, Instagram. People tended to get out of shape in the off season. Now they kind of have to almost stay in shape all fucking year. So I'd argue it's a lot easier to do a 6 to 8 week cycle, even for a top pro, just to get into kind of guest posing shape, if not competition shape, just to look good on that Saturday night in 6 or 8 weeks' time.
Agree there. With the guest posing, things like that, there's been many in the past come up on stage and you're going, oh my God, what am I looking at? I'm
trying to think of
Olympia and things like that.
He won the Mr. Olympia black fella, won it once.
Yeah, Sean Roden came on. Sean Roden came on.
Yes.
Yeah, and he came on, he looked like a dad bod. Yep.
Yeah. What the fuck was going on there? Changing the subject, moving on, for yourself, Pigsy, what have your own reasons been for running shorter cycles? And what was your specific experience? What was the PEDs that you chose? And why did you run 6 to 8 week cycles for yourself?
Okay. Well, I did one because in my first short cycle I really did was back in early 2020. I did a bicep tendon and had an operation on it. So I just went back because I spoke to my doctor and he just said, just go back onto your low dose test and just stick with that. He was a sports doctor who worked with a lot of footballers, rugby players and stuff like that. So he was up to the thing saying, yeah, just stick with the low dose test. So that took around 5 months to really heal before I could really push. And then I had a holiday set up from the 6 to 8 weeks from that time. And so I push a cut blend, which I think you've used before, Monster, which is the Test, Tren, and Masteron mix. Yes. So I use that for the 8 weeks. Yes. And I was running 1 mil of that every second day. This one I was using was 75 meg of Test P, 75 meg of Tren A, and 75 meg of Mass P. Then that worked a treat in that time. Because I was actually training even just one side of the body for a lot of the time and just lightweight on the one side.
Yep.
And I was just doing a shitload of legs, legs 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And there. So those short compounds. And then with the last 4 weeks, I added in 50 meg of Winstrol.
What kind of results did you get on that? Do you remember how much?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I got, I think I came in, from when I started, I would have been 14, 15%. And I would have got sub 10 in that 8 weeks. But I was pushing very hard, especially on the cardio. So I would do 45 an hour in the morning.
What kind of cardio?
And then train, and then
what kind of cardio?
Here I have a room set up here, so I do a mix. Sometimes I'll jump on the spin bike, then jump on the treadmill, and then jump on the elliptical or cross trainer. Yeah. Sometimes I'll just stay on the one thing the whole time. Other times I'll just jump on one and then the next to the next. It just depends.
Yep.
How I feel, and and also what's on the box when I'm watching to pass the time.
And what was your diet during this How strict was it? How many calories did you cut?
I end up dropping down to 1,600 calories. I got as low as. So I think I was still on around 220 protein, 50 to 60 carbs, and around 50 fats. Oof. In that time. Yeah, I pushed pretty hard. Didn't feel the best, but in the end, you were just starving because back then there was no Retra or things like that. So you're also using a little bit of T3 and Clen.
Yeah. So today, would you recommend? Would you recommend today people not crash their calories so much and go on the Rita and the tirzepatide, these types of GLPs?
Yeah, definitely. I probably could have nearly done as well on 2,000, but back then I just put the pedal to the metal sort of thing and just suffer as much as I could to get to the result I wanted.
Sorry, Pigsy, there's an old school thing and I've seen some of the 80s and 90s bodybuilders talking about this, and arguably I'm probably boomer builder myself in that particular regards, in that I like the idea, and it's kind of perverse, like these 80s and 90s bodybuilders, in a perverse way, we kind of like we feel the need that we've got to suffer because no other fucker's suffering and no other fucker's going to get the same shape or strength as me because I'm the fucking shit. I'm out there doing it, which is kind of weird because then at the same time, 80s, 90s bodybuilders, myself, yourself, and Steve, we're also then using the advantage of whatever the fuck's available to us, which again, as you say, wasn't available then, but we would absolutely, definitely do it now. When we see guys using the GLPs, as you two know, they're absolutely losing 1 to 2 pounds a week the whole fucking time. So they would lose somewhere between 6 and 16 pounds based on a 6 to 8 week cycle the whole fucking time using a GLP. And that's a given. We know it's a given because we've seen it's a given. The idea that we don't have to struggle on Clen anymore. And I did exactly the same as Pigsy with regards to that product. In fact, ironically, I did a 4-week cut and then a 4-week bulk and lost, as I said on many shows, went down 7 pounds from 327 to 320, bounced back up to 327, but with a smaller waist, so a recomposition, and then went to my all-time highest body weight by going straight into straight into a bulk. And arguably, and this might be something for the guys to think about, the reason why I was able to gain so much and get to the biggest I've ever had is because I'd done the cut. I was also a little bit like Pigsy. I don't have the cardio set up here, but I was doing, and I said to the listeners before, 3 lots of steps a day, and I was fine with 2, as I normally am, but 3 was like, fuck this shit, whose fucking stupid idea was this? Of course, it was my idea. Get out there, get it done. And I didn't cut on the calories as much as Pigsy did, but then my lots all a lot heavier. But I had no treats, no crap, no sort of savoury, there was nothing in the house. I ate what I needed to eat, and that's all I fucking ate. And there was nothing extra in there, nothing to bulk up, nothing to fill me out. All the carbs were getting used, all the protein was getting used. There was no superfluous food in my diet whatsoever. And again, I'm not a serious bodybuilder, I'm more of a strength athlete. But I like the idea almost of that weird sufferance to get my shit done. Let's see if I can fucking do it. Even though I can fucking do 4 weeks of sufferance and then straight onto the what can I get in my mouth for fucking 4 weeks on a bulk. Absolutely no problem. I don't know that I'd want to do 16 weeks contest prep of a bodybuilding diet. I know, fuck that shit. I'm glad I'm a lifter. So guys, if you're listening and you do that shit, if you like pigs and you've done that stuff, you've got my admiration. It's a lot easier to eat to grow than it is to cut and get that stuff. But again, that's why so few people are sub 10% like Pigsy or have Pigsy's physique, as we've seen in the past. And that's the reason why, because it's fucking hard work. I don't care what GLPs and PEDs you've got available to you. There is always going to be some, you got to get this shit done aspect to it. And few people are able to achieve that. So yeah, that's fucking mental, man. What about your choice of products? The reasoning behind why you chose what you chose for those cycles. So you've mentioned, I know why, because I've done the same thing. But why did you choose those short esters? Why did you use that type of product? What was your thinking when you chose it? Again, this is just you and I both know already. But what about letting the listeners know why you chose it?
I chose those ones because I believe they would give me the results I was looking for, and the physique also. So the test was in there just to keep you feeling good. The trend was in there. They helped you with your strength, and also the fire to train hard as well, and the Mastron in there to harden you up. And then as the final 4 weeks of that, and then I'd add in the Windstroll just to dry myself out a little bit.
Okay.
To drop that little bit of water weight so that the skin would come tight against the muscle, and even though you probably look you're actually a little bit smaller in physical size, but because the skin becomes shrink wrapped around the muscle, you actually look a lot bigger. When someone sees you, they go, "Holy shit!" When your veins are popping, the muscles are all popping, you get all the separations and feathering, and things like that. Or from that, you stand next to someone, it doesn't look that impressive when you dress, but as soon as you take it off, just do a couple of pumps here and there, and then you look like you're twice the size.
So you got the nice. So which tropical island did you go to?
I went to Boracay in the Philippines.
Okay. And
yeah.
What was it like?
It's similar to like Bali and those places, Thailand. It's all very similar.
So what was it like dropping from 14-15% body fat to sub 10%, then going to a place like that and having no shirt on the beach and stuff? Did it give you confidence? Did it make you feel good? Were you getting looks from people? You're like, you kind of women were checking you out and they give you a nice little feeling. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the women were checking me out. The wife wasn't too happy, but but she can get by on it. But like everyone would want to come up and take photos. All the locals would call me John Cena.
Okay.
They thought I was a wrestler. They thought I was a wrestler.
How tall are you? How tall are you?
Well, I'm 5'9".
Okay.
But over there, because everyone's so short,
so people in the Philippines are smaller. So, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, the average male's probably 5'5".
So I'd be tall there.
And the women are like 5 foot. Yeah.
I'd be tall there. I'm a monster at 5'6", so I'd be a monster.
Yeah.
So they were coming up to you. They thought you were a professional wrestler, and
they thought I was a professional wrestler, but no.
What would they think about Mobster? Mobster weight. Mobster's like what, 6'4".
Oh my god, man!
They would think Mobster was a sumo wrestler, huh?
I went Turkey some years ago, and there was a bouncer of all things at some kind of a restaurant, which we went to a few times, and he was asking me all these questions about training and shit. And ironically, the one place we went to regular, there was a young couple that came on the our second week that we were there, my partner at the time. And he was a young bodybuilder. So it was weird, going all the way across the fucking world to the Philippines, all the way across the world to Turkey. And you end up talking to people about training and bodybuilding and shit. But at the same time, it's good for the fucking ego. You look good in shape. What David Williams that we had on the show before, Steve, made himself ill a few months ago because in a rather foolish way, bearing in mind his medical condition, he wanted to be the most ripped dad by the pool in Dubai. So we do this shit to look good. But what the fuck? That would be the reason why we want to look good. We want people to go look at that guy with fucking abs in the chest. We want that guy to look how fucking big and strong he looks, or whatever the fuck it is. Because otherwise, what's the fucking point? So listen, right? I might take the piss out of the young guys on the forum and whatever else. But the reality is, being young, one is a six-pack. Absolutely, I'd want to look good on the fucking beach and whatever the fuck that is. Whether it's a vein in my arm or tricep hanging down or whatever the fuck. So listen, There's no good me giving guys shit because I can close some stupid gripper or pick up some big block weight or something and then take the piss out of someone because they want a six-pack and they want to look good on the beach. It's absolutely fucking reason enough. You're grinding, you're training. Why shouldn't you look good on the beach for that one time of the year? Why shouldn't you look good on stage? So listen, guys, we absolutely get it. Pigsy's choosing certain products because they're effective. He knows that they work for him. And especially given the shorter esters, Pigsy, because you know they're quicker in, you know you're going to respond very quickly and quicker out. You don't want stuff that's in your system for 4 weeks or even the 2 weeks while you're away on holiday. You want to peak almost like a man that's doing a competition for your holiday. You want to look good by a certain date. And the idea of having something that builds up in your system over weeks, like say some of the testosterones, isn't going to do the job here. If you got more time, if you got months before the holiday, yes, no problem. But you need, in this situation, and I've seen the photographs on Pigsy's holiday, you need to look a certain particular way. Just as an aside, Pigsy, fuck all to do with a podcast. I think you hit the gym where you was at there as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I hit a couple of gyms there. Yeah. Because I have a place over there in the Philippines as well, so I go once or twice a year to the gyms there. Some of the gyms are pretty average, but all the young guys are just in awe when I go. So they all get upset. Like when I go home,
they really enjoy your company.
Our friends that live there, they always ask, "When is he coming back? When's he coming back?"
Yeah. You add to the environment of the gym for sure. So let me talk a little bit about a Euro Pharma, a bulker that I did with Anadrol. I did 50 milligrams a day. It was 6 weeks. I put on a monster amount of mass and strength. I put on probably like 15 pounds on it. I added like 50 or 60 pounds to my big lifts. So that's a really quick one, in and out. That's all I did was Anadrol solo. Any good mass building short cycles that you recommend, Pigsy? That you've tried or maybe they recommend?
For myself, I did just a test MPP and Anadrol. Just as a short one, the test MPP and the Anadrol. Definitely you pick up a lot of strength and size in a couple of weeks.
How's the appetite on that?
My appetite's good. I know some people have issues with Anadrol with their appetite. It can suppress the appetite. I never have an issue with Anadrol doing that at all. But I know some get to say week 3 and they do struggle on Anadrol.
Well, I think the MPP helps. So how much strength and mass did you put on that one, and how long was it?
I did. What did I do? So I started at 104, and I ended up at 109. So that's about 5 kilos in the 8 weeks. But I don't really push the food high. My strength went from I was doing say on, because I don't flat bench, I do incline. So I started incline. I was doing 6 at 120 kilos, and then I got up to 8 at 160 kilos. Just in the incline. Right. On leg press, I went from 16. Say on the hammer strength leg press, I went from 16 plates to 24 plates on the leg press on that time as well. But so I got about 8 reps, I think, on 24 plates. Squats went from I just do safety bar squats, so that went from 140 to 180 in the strength gains.
What was the dosing on the test probe, MPP, and Anadrol?
I was running 700 test P, 300 MPP, and 50 meg of anadrol.
That was 8 weeks, right?
In that cycle. Yeah. I didn't run the anadrol for the 8 weeks. I only used it in the last four. I find that I just start, for me personally, I just start feeling a tad off after 4 weeks.
Yeah, anadrol's pretty brutal on the body. It's brutal on your lipids and everything.
Yeah, because I remember I did one. I couldn't do it. I did Superdrol, and the best I could ever get was even 20 meg was 2 weeks.
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
Before I felt like dog shit.
These are some pretty hardcore cycles, I think, for more experience. What about some newbies out there who want to dip their toes into a first cycle, maybe second cycle, and who want to do 6 to 8 weeks? What would be a good steroid stack, maybe 1 or 2 steroids they can run to really get good results, either cutting or bulking?
Yeah, well, we do the test P and the MPP, definitely. Maybe some Tren A, so either drop the MPP and change that to Tren A.
Okay. Even as a newbie?
Also, a newbie? Oh, no, do the MPP.
Okay.
Yep. And then...
so a more experienced person?
Maybe some anadrol.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more experienced, definitely. You whack in some Tren.
So someone not experienced, would you recommend a different oral than anadrol for them? Would you recommend?
They could probably go for some Anavar or T-Bol.
Okay.
Yeah. That'll be pretty good for a newbie. Because they're not going to be as hard on the body as anadrol. Anadrol, I think, should be left to someone a bit more, a couple cycles in.
There's a great argument to be made for newbies, as we talked about on other shows. You can dip your toe in the water with an oral, quicker in, quicker out. And I actually wrote down D-Bol as a quick bulker, 6 to 8 weeks. I know that I put on weight. Even now, I put on weight very, very quickly if I use D-Bol. Typically a pound a fucking day for the first week or so. And then I'd hold that for the whole 6 to 8 weeks. I wrote down Anavar. Again, I've done this 4 to 8 weeks, or 6 to 8 weeks again of Anavar to peak my strength. And I even wrote down, because you can have this as an oral injectable. And again, you actually mentioned it earlier on, Pigsy, Winstrol, again as an oral, just as an example of orals. And of course, Euro Pharma has all of these 6 to 8 weeks of somewhere between 30 to 50 milligrams a day of Winstrol. Very simple, very straightforward. This is for newbies. Absolutely, like Pigsy, you know what you're doing at some point. You know what you can mix in. You know what you can do in terms of trend and so on and so forth. And also, an obvious example, we said this with injectables again, it absolutely makes sense on a 6 to 8 week cycle to run shorter esters. So ACE, as you mentioned earlier on, and propionate, and again, quicker results. Again, with Trenbolone, we said this a bunch of times, guys, we always say Trenbolone acetate, regardless of the length of cycle, if you're a newbie, purely and simply because if you don't fucking like it, or you absolutely hate the side effects, quicker in, quicker out, versus innate fate. But again, it absolutely makes sense to use something like an acetate, Tren, or otherwise, for a 6 to 8 week cycle. The one example that I like to give, and I know Pigsy's got some experience here in this, is in those 6 to 8 week cycle, and especially if you're getting ready for holiday or a modeling gig or whatever else, it's like the last 6 to 8 weeks of a contest prep. Contest preps can easily be in 16, 20 weeks. I've seen one person recently, a girl figure, did nearly half the fucking, well, more than half the year, I know she did, to get into shape, and she did very well. And that will come down into different parts. There will be a bulk at the beginning, there'll be conditioning, tidying up, health phases, etc. But the last 6 to 8 weeks, typically of a contest prep, and especially the last 2 weeks, tends to be the most aggressive, but also the more likely to see orals that are out and quickly, and obviously acetates and propionates and all of the short-acting esters in and out very, very quickly because the body changes. I mean, let me ask you this as well, Pigsy. how much did your body transform in the last couple of weeks, just to give the listeners insight? Because you're still running a 6 to 8 week cycle. You still got ready for your holiday. But I guarantee the best of you came in that last 2 weeks when all the fat was starting to go, when everything started to pop more. And again, some of our listeners won't have had that experience. So talk about just how much you started to change in the last couple of weeks doing what you were doing.
Yeah, well, the last couple of weeks, definitely. The body changed a lot. The skin got a little bit tighter as the body fat dropped. Yeah, the abs would start coming out. Leg separation, everything would come out. Also, the stomach itself, yes. on the less food would shrink. So the waist would come down a couple of inches, maybe 2 inches in that time which is quite surprising.
There's a vibe, Pigsy, which I know you have of, and this is just again insight. Pigsy getting up in the morning 2 weeks out versus Pigsy going to bed of a night time. I guarantee you get that morning, as you just said, empty stomach, veins where there weren't no veins yesterday night. And that, as you said, literally standing in front of the bathroom mirror or wherever, going, Jesus Christ, look at me, motherfucker. It's always that really crazy look first thing in the morning. So, yeah, I'm just vibing. Yeah. I'm vibing also, Pigsy, on the idea of you're finally packed, you're on the fucking plane, you're flying out, and the first time you go to the swimming pool, or the first time you go to that beach, or the first time you hit the Philippines gym that you like to train at, and vibing off the fact that you fucking look fucking amazing just on those first couple of days when you fucking hit and you're ready to rock and roll and you know you've done everything you need to do. Silly little idea, and I'll ask you this now, Pigsy. When people travel, do you have any of that thing where when you're on the plane that you stay hydrated so that you know that you're good to go when you land? Or do you not worry about it now that you're on holiday?
No, I make sure I'm hydrated. Because the flight is from here is 7 hours.
Wow, still long enough.
To Manila. And then you've got the stopover, which can be up to 5 hours. Okay. So, I make sure I drink and everything. Yeah. Definitely. Because you're drinking there because normally you're not drinking. So when you're in the air, it actually makes you hold water. So you're better off drinking your heaps while you're in the air and everywhere else. And you think you'll be waterlogged, but it's the opposite. You'll actually look drier when you land and you get to your destination.
I knew that there was a thing there and I wasn't quite sure how it works. So there's another tip for listeners in terms of make sure you do hydrate. I know that there's a thing some lifters, some bodybuilders do where they will try to have specific food or if they're allowed to take food onto the plane, that kind of stuff. And again, the body can transform. If you're talking about a 7-hour flight and a 5 hour, that's 12 fucking hours. Never mind the flight from the stopover to the next point. So it's half the fucking day gone, and your body can change from the morning to the afternoon. Again, it's not a competition, but you still want to. You put all that fucking time and effort in because you still want to look good when you get there. Otherwise, what's the fucking point, mate? So yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's right. They're definitely right because the not drinking on the plane will actually. That's when it makes you hold water. It's the it's to a newbie. It's the opposite, the less you drink, the more water you hold. The more you drink, the less you hold, especially flying. Especially flying, definitely.
So,
I know.
No, go on.
I said I normally try and get the aisle seat so I can stretch my legs out in the aisle.
Well, any tricks on that?
Or the emergency.
Is there any tricks on getting an aisle seat? Do you have like a connection at the airline, or do you have a travel agent that can hook you up, or what? Or is it just
because with our airline, you pay an extra.
You have to pay extra. Okay,
so you do your normal booking, and then they'll send you an email, and then you can choose your seating.
Is it Qantas?
But then. No, I fly. No, they don't fly there. I think Jetstar do. but I'm only fly Philippine Airlines because because all their connecting flights, I don't have to worry about luggage and everything. I don't have to pick it up.
How far is the drive?
They'll do it.
How far is the
I'm sorry, Steve, I wasn't going to call it a tip, but I mentioned on a previous show that I'd been lucky a couple of times, and I was actually going to suggest this to Pigsy. If they think you're a competing bodybuilder or even a wrestler, John Cena, one of the things that helped me in the past was they'd say, "Oh, why are you traveling today, Mr. Gardner?" And I'd say, "Oh, because I'm going for a competition. Let's see if we can get you an aisle seat, or let's see if we can get your seat down by the emergency door," me being taller, of course. So that I had that a few times. Never had it on a fucking holiday, but when I was competing, without me even mentioning it, they brought it up and they said, "I will see if we can get you a more comfortable seat or wherever." So that actually helped me in that way. I was actually going to say to Pigsy, he could actually pretend that he's going to compete and see if they give him a comfortable seat or whatever. So yeah, I won't call it a trick as such, but it did come useful back in the day. So it meant I could stretch out, it meant I could relax and whatever else. And the only issue for me, and I don't know if it surprised you, Pigsy, is that some of my flights were in the middle of the fucking night, 9 hours. So you're landing early hours in the morning when you get there, all that kind of shit. And I could never sleep properly on an airplane.
Yeah,
I'm looking, Steve, here. I'm looking at Euro Pharmacy's products here, Steve. Although this particular one, there's two of them that are cancelled. You can still get these from resellers. One of the products is called Rapid Cut 350. It's very similar to what Pigsy was on a bit earlier on, with the tren, acetate, masteron, and testosterone. And also this particular one, the 350 has testosterone cypionate. That's 75 milligrams of the first three and 125 milligrams. Again, this would be end of line, still good from some of the resellers. And they also do a much more similar to what you mentioned earlier on, Pigsy, very similar product that I've used myself, which they call, again, end of line. You can still get it from the resellers. Cutting Mix 300. And it's exactly like Pigsy said earlier on, except in this case, Pigsy, me and you would use half a mil, and I was doing it every third day, you was doing it every second day. And this is 300 milligrams, trenbolone acetate 100, masteron again 100, and testosterone again 100. And again, as I said, me and you would have used half a mil instead of a mil. So this is slightly higher dose, obviously. And again, just for the benefit of the listeners, the Euro pharmacies have stopped making this, but it is still in stock at a bunch of the resellers. And it's identical with regards to the dosage. The products that me and Pigsy have both used in the past and got great results from. So I'd absolutely give those two a thumbs up in terms of the injectables, and especially when it comes to getting into shape, cutting, because that's what both of these two particular products are aimed at. Back to you, Steve.
So before we let you go, Pigsy, we know it's late. We appreciate you coming on. What are some final tips and mistakes that guys and gals make out there when it comes to shorter cycles that maybe you've done in the past or you see people doing that can be easily corrected?
Well, I think sometimes is someone just push the doses too high because you think I've only got this short a period of time. I'm going to bloody whack in double this, double that, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or either they're going to eat too much, or eat not enough when they're cutting. There's all sorts, and then also the orals, the sleep, and everything like that can get affected. That's always very important. Is for recovery is the sleep.
I thought of one. Steve,
other mistakes would be
Pigsy. Make sure, and this is applicable right across the board, and I have seen this happen. Order ahead of time, unless the missus has won your holiday in a competition or sprung it upon you. Don't wait till the last. I've made this mistake, ordering at the last fucking minute. Never again. And the other thing that Pigsy just said with bulking, so you get really excited, you want to get as big as a house. No one wants to be big fat as a house, but you want a big muscular as a house. So Pigsy is 100% right there. The idea that you can eat more calories, you'll get bigger quicker, but you'll get fatter quicker. And that's kind of just going to make it fucking harder work for when you want to get into shape again. So you want to add muscle with a little bit of fat, not fucking loads of fat and a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, I'll tell you a story, right? There was a young guy who was training with me for a little bit, and he I was helping him with his diet and everything like that. And he said he wanted to do a bulk. And I said, all right, here it is. And he wasn't too happy with what I gave him. So he went to someone else. And in that 8 to 12 weeks, he put on, I can't remember what it was, something stupid like nearly 15 to 16 kilos. And he looked like a sloppy mess. So, and then it took him 16 weeks to get back to where he was the 8 weeks before he started his bulk. He lost 24 weeks. 24 weeks, so half a year wasted.
And 15 kilos for the American listeners is 33 fucking pounds. So he's added 33 pounds of shit. He's had to take all that time to get the shit back off and go back to where he fucking started from. So listen, the reason why we do these shows, we've made these mistakes, not ordinary. We've made mistakes eating too much or cutting too much. We do these shows, listeners, so that you don't make these mistakes. So you do them right. So you do make the right choices. What do you think on that, Stevesmi, before we move on?
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on, Pigsy. And again, come on the forum, check out Pigsy, his posts and his logs. You can search for him in the top right, search by member, Pigsy. He's a wealth of knowledge, and feel free to go and comment in his log and ask him questions as well. So Pigsy, appreciate you coming on, man. We will definitely see you on the forums.
Thank you so much, dude.
Oh, great. Oh, thank you very much. And I'll catch us next time.
All right,
have a good one, Evo family.
Take care, buddy.
Ta-da.
All right, so Mobster and I, listen, at the end of the day, Euro Pharma, Mobster went through some of their great mixed products that you can do for short cycles, short esters. They have short esters across the board. Their trenbolones, their masterons, or their test, their tests, short ester tests. They've got orals. These are all good options for 6 to 8 week cycles. You can absolutely do them. Stick to the shorter cycles. If you don't like injecting very much, you can go with their oral options.
Both kinds of Winstrol, both EQ, you name it, they've got it, Stephen. The reason why we like Euro Pharmacies, and I've said this before, right? There's no frills about Euro Pharmacies. What they have in their line works. What you need, they've got. And if it doesn't sell, they take it out of the line. That's the reason why some of these products are dropping. They're focusing on solid products that work every single time, all day long, and making sure that they have available what you, the customer, wants. So that is an absolute. When we're looking at, like I said, but what I would do, guys, and this is just another sort of tip, those two products I mentioned are coming to the end of the line. And I'm looking at Euro Pharmacy's website when I say that. So go out and grab some of those things if you like the idea of using those. But you still have the option to put together blends yourself. You still have the option of mixing if you're a newbie, try the short rest orals that we've already suggested. If you're new to tren, or if you're new to testosterone and you're not sure how your body's going to respond, go for the short resters. And absolutely, you can run a short cycle. I would say, Steve, in terms of your newbie and your professional, Euro Pharmacy has got everything you need. I'm on their main page right now, Steve, with regards to the AIs, the sex pills, the Clen. I mean, I'm looking at Clamoxin here. If what we talk about with a good source like Euro Pharmacies is they have all the ancillaries. Talk a little bit about that, Steve, before we finish the show.
Yeah, that's a good thing about Euro Pharma. They have everything, not just the steroids. They have the ancillaries that you're going to need, the Aromacin, the Arimidex. They have the Viagra, the dick drugs, the Cialis. These are things that can come in handy on a short cycle like this. And Euro Pharma, they have it all. They're a one-stop shop. They have everything you could possibly want. And the prices are outstanding. And when you order from them, you know you're getting legitimate gear. That's a good thing about ordering from them. So it's really, really important when you when you're doing a short cycle, like in Pigsy's example earlier, he was going on vacation. So it's very, very important for him to get results because it's do or die. You've got a short amount of time. You want to not waste your time by using compounds that are not what they claim. If he was using Winstrol and it was really Dianabol, he would have bloated up.
Oh, can you imagine, Steve?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
It would have been a disaster. You want to make sure your ancillaries are on point as well. You don't want to use Aromacin. That's fake. We got a lot of fake Aromacin out there, and it can end up with Dino. Can you imagine going on vacation, Mobster? Going to the beach with
wear a t-shirt. he'd have those fucking abs and quads and veins, and he'd have to wear a t-shirt the whole time because we're embarrassed to fuck.
Exactly.
You've got to go. You have to use a source, listeners. You have to use a source that has products you can trust for exactly those reasons that Steve talked about. I'm looking again at the main page here, guys, especially if you were doing a cut. Because obviously you can do a bulk, you can train for strength as well in 6 to 8 weeks. They got fat loss with semaglutide, human growth hormone. They've got orals in bags and in blister packs for those people who like that. I'm looking at the list of peptides, the SARMs, and as I said, even the end of product lines, guys. They have everything you need. When you're bulking, cutting, getting stronger, prepping for a photo shoot, prepping for a holiday. I see it again and again. Not every fucker wants to be on stage, Steve. Not everybody wants to have a grip world record or whatever, or a great bench press. Sometimes we just want to look good for the fucking beach and have that one time a year when we're walking around. And if you live in the Philippines like Pigsy, people think you're a fucking professional wrestler off the TV. That's just a cool vibe for a holiday. So, yeah, absolutely. It's the reason why Steve and I bang the drum when it comes to Euro Pharma is because we know that they're a great source and we know that they've got you covered with everything you could possibly need and more. And again, they're always adding, they're always looking to see what the customer wants. So, yeah, that's another reason why we bang the Euro Pharma's drum. Please note, as always, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It is our view based on our experience and views on the topic. A podcast for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.